Hello, everyone. Happy Mind Your Mission Monday. Liz and I are super excited to jump into today's episode. Before we do, we are going to start a new introduction segment for the podcast, which is called Mission Debrief, which is basically sharing our highs and lows, but we're going to call it our mission accomplished, our mission malfunction, and then our course correction. So, like, what lesson we've learned in the last couple weeks since we filmed. So, Liz, before we jump into today's topic, do you want to start with your mission debrief?
Yes, I feel like mine kind of ties into what we're talking about this week anyway, probably because this is what I was like focusing on thinking about this week. But I feel like something that went well this week is I got back into reading my Bible. It's only been like a few days, but I'm getting back into routine of that. I was doing a devotional, but I just feel like it wasn't giving me enough. So I'm like starting to read like more chapters again. So hopefully that gets me more on fire for reading the Bible. And I feel like the more I do it and the more consistent I am with it, the better I'll get. And I also got off Instagram. I've been off it for like the past week, and I don't know if I'm going to go back, which I'll talk about a little bit about that later, but I'm just enjoying not being on it. It just became too much because I guess this is something that went sideways. Is it was just like the parasite like thing. All it was doing was stressing me out. And I was like, if I wasn't on Instagram, I wouldn't even know about this. So I
haven't really seen, I don't know how my algorithm hasn't, like, I haven't seen anything, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah. It was just like my whole algorithm was like this parasite. And I was like, okay, I'm getting off. I'm tired of this. So I just got off, and I feel like it's been great for me. And I feel like something that I learned, which is the course correction through preparing for this podcast, that rest doesn't always look like vegging out, scrolling, watching shows, consuming. Like, that doesn't really give us true rest. It kind of just numbs us, which we'll get into more today. But that's kind of what I learned through getting off of social media. I feel like I've been able to rest in other ways and have not been as anxious because I'm not seeing all these things that I'm probably not supposed to see. Like, I'm not meant to see every part of everyone's lives, and I'm not meant to probably know this much possibly fake news about this like parasite, which I don't even care if I get. I'm just worried about my son, but everything he eats is cooked anyway. So I'm like, there's really not a way he could get it, I think. But anyways, that's my mission debrief. Yeah.
For me, let's see. Mission accomplished. Haven is sleeping through the night. I'm going to say it. I'm probably going to jinx it. That's always how it goes. But she's sleeping through the night. And here's what I'll say. I'm totally for like co-sleeping for other families. But for our family, sleep training has just worked and been a huge blessing. And my kids both now have thrived off of consistency and some structure and some clear, I'll say, boundaries with sleep. Because I think before I was kind of wishy-washy and letting her cry. And that was for a good reason. Like, I didn't want her to be uncomfortable and all these things. I was trying to make sure that she was physically healthy. But I also was definitely aiding in her lack of sleep by sending her mixed signals when it came to like when I would just go in and pick her up when she cried versus when I'd let her cry it out. Like, there wasn't any consistency on my end. And so I just have to say it. I am all for sleep training. I'm also all for just finding one program and sticking to it versus going down internet rabbit holes, because I feel like when it comes to anything parenting or anything in life, honestly, there's so many free resources, which is great. But also when you're just jumping around and always finding different information, it can be really confusing. And so I've just found a lot of peace in just like picking either a course, or I've done the same thing with like potty training, for example. I just read one book and just followed one book, like just having one resource and just trying it that way instead of bouncing around. That is just, I will kind of preach that I guess approach to things, because there's just so much information out there. Like you're saying with the parasite, like there's just so much, and we're not meant to have to filter all that information. So anyway, that's my mission accomplished. I'll say, obviously there will be bumps in the road, but I just feel like we have a much better foundation now. Our malfunction, we were supposed to film last night, but last night ended up being chaotic because all of a sudden, so my husband's out of town for work this week, and so I'm doing the evening shift alone, and I'm prepping dinner. The two kids are, hungry, but I'm trying to entertain them. They're doing good. Then all of a sudden my phone just starts doing the like Amber Alert noise, but it was for a like imminent threat tornado, which I know that the weather app like errs on the side of caution, and then it's not always like something that you need to stress about. But I looked outside, and like in the matter of seconds, it was actually kind of intense. I've never seen it like switch that fast. It was just like light, trickly raining, and then all of a sudden like the wind picked up, and it was like I couldn't see anything because it was just gray. And so I was like, okay, pause dinner, go downstairs in the basement. And then that just kind of like threw off my whole night. And I think the reason that this is like a malfunction, it wasn't just because of the one night. It's just because I've had my nights with Nolan being gone. I've like tried to like get things done that I need to get done like in these nights. And so I've had every night like very scheduled. And this also ties into what we're talking about today, but that like one bump in the road like set everything back, and I was like, shoot, I was supposed to do this tonight and this tomorrow night and this. So it just like made me realize that I might have everything a little too jam-packed, like tightly scheduled out, and am not leaving any wiggle room for real life to happen. So just how much it like offset me was kind of an indicator that I need to course correct. So I guess that's also my course correction. So yeah, that is my mission debrief for this episode. And since we've already mentioned it, we'll just go right into today's topic. We are asking the question today, what is real rest and how do we attain it? And I feel like this is an interesting time to be talking about rest because although I didn't necessarily feel this way as a kid when we had summer break, as a parent, I feel like summers have just become the busy season. Like every mom I talk to, whether it's at church or at work or anything, it's like, how are you doing? It's like, well, we're really busy. You know, summer's busy. And so we wanted to talk about rest specifically now because it seems like a season where we sometimes just accept that we're going to be busy and that life is going to be chaotic and that we're not going to be super restful and just like put off the rest for the fall or the winter time when the weather's calmer or whatever it is. Like, I think we just put off rest sometimes, but we want to talk about what even is it and how do we actually attain it if it's something that we're supposed to have access to 24/7 and not dependent on what's going on in our lives.
I watched a video a couple weeks ago, which I went back to when we were going to do this episode, and I'll link it down below because a lot of my notes are from there, but it was by Beth Grace Moore. I don't know if you watched it, but it was talking about,
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what she called it. If it was something about like motherhood and exhaustion and just like being exhausted in motherhood. And so I went back to it when I was prepping this episode because there was so much good stuff in that. So I'll link that down below. But I feel like she kind of alluded to rest. So I'm kind of tying it back to that. But I feel like oftentimes like talking to people, I even asked the girls at Bible study, I was like, what do you like? How do you rest? And a lot of it's like watching like TV or a show. No one really said scrolling, but I know like a lot of people, that's how they like wind down at the end of the night. Taking a nap is one way I love to rest when I can. Taking a vacation is one way a lot of people rest. Being alone, that's one thing that I think is like restful, which is probably not, but it's just like being alone. Not necessarily like hanging out with my husband is kind of me also being alone. I mean, so like not having plans with other people, treating ourselves, maybe like out to coffee or something, or like doing absolutely nothing. But in watching her video, she was talking about how like motherhood really asks a lot of us. Like we have to pour out so much. So rest should be something that like the very few moments we have to rest should be something that's pouring back into us so that we are able to pour out. So I'm just going to go through all my notes, but she was talking about why mothers feel so mentally exhausted, which I know we all feel that because we're doing a lot. Like there's changing diapers, there's making meals, there's cleaning the house. We're also working, carrying the mental load of our families. Like there is a lot, and being exhausted from that is like absolutely so valid. But I think there's another layer that we don't talk about enough. And this is what she talked about in the video, but we are like constantly consuming. We're in a culture where we're always consuming content. Like from the moment that we wake up, our attention is being fought over. We have notifications. Our phone is always tied to us and people can always reach us. We have like Instagram and podcasts, which we love doing this podcast, but still it's a one-sided, like you're not getting dialogue. It's just you're listening and you're not having like a conversation with us, but I still love doing the podcast. But like YouTube, news even, and like emails, and like even I have done this for forever. Like even when I'm folding laundry or making dinner, I feel like I need to have something on like in the background, whether it be a podcast or a show or something. And I feel like as a culture, we've become uncomfortable with silence. And she was talking about how there's a saying we all know, like garbage in, garbage out, and the things that we consume shape the way we think, feel, and like experience our days. And she was talking about how the scary part about the algorithm is that it's designed to keep us engaged. Like it's not designed to make us wiser. Like it's designed to keep us engaged and to keep us scrolling. That's literally like their plan. and it doesn't leave us at peace or fulfilled. It just keeps us scrolling. And I think that those algorithms are competing for our most valuable resource, which is like our attention. And these are the things that she like talked about in her video. And I was like, oh, that does sound very familiar. And these are, I guess, signs that you are doing that, which I feel like is very common. But it's like you instinctively reach for your phone in every free moment. Sitting in silence feels uncomfortable. You know, every trend on the internet, like Parasite. You consume hours of content each week, but rarely stop to reflect on any of it. Like it's just a constant, like we're not reflecting on anything we're scrolling or watching. And then at the end of the day, your mind feels busy, but your heart still feels empty. And she was talking about how scrolling can feel productive because we're learning something new, but we're not collecting information that has time to become wisdom. Like we're just jumping to the next thing and the next thing. Like we're not sitting there and reflecting on it and like having conversations about it. And we're taking in a lot, but we're not giving ourselves the space to process it. And she compared scrolling to eating junk food and how like you keep consuming, hoping you'll feel satisfied and you never do. And you just want more and you don't feel great after. So we're doing all this and then we're wondering why we're mentally exhausted. Like, yes, there is a big load on motherhood, but also any free moment I have if I'm scrolling, that's not filling me back up. And like I talked about, as moms, we're spending our day pouring out to other people. And if we're constantly pouring out, our rest needs to be filling ourselves back up. And we don't just need to escape or numb our mind. We need to actually be restored. And she talked about this verse. It's Luke 2:19. And it says, but Mary treasured up all these things, pondering them in her heart. And it was talking about like when she was raising Jesus. And it's hard to even imagine raising Jesus. Mm-hmm. But she wasn't documenting every moment or distracted by the next thing competing for her attention. She treasured the moments and she slowed down enough to notice them and she reflected on them, is kind of what she was talking about this verse. And that's the kind of mother that I want to be. I don't want to rush through my son's childhood because my attention is somewhere else and I feel like I'm half here, half there. I really want to treasure it. And she was talking about how one of the most countercultural things we can do is to consume less, not because technology is inherently bad, like there are good things about it, but because our attention is precious. And instead of reaching for our phones, I think there are a lot of things we can do instead to truly find rest. And a couple of ones I thought of that really do give me rest is like reading, being outside, like being outdoors really gives me rest, whether I'm like just sitting there, walking, running, all of that like makes me feel rested. And then even like different hobbies, things that you can do stuff with your hands. Like I have enjoyed gardening, or I'm not really into baking, but I know that's like another one that people really like, where they can like work with their hands, get off their phone. Journaling, I know that's something you do. And then also like meeting friends. Like a lot of times I think like when I need rest, I won't make plans, but I think it can be really restful to go get coffee with a friend and like have a really good sit down conversation with them. And also just like reading scripture and just like sitting with it, which we don't get a ton of opportunities to do these as a mom, but you can like go outside on a walk with your child or sit outside with them while they play, or you can do these things after they go to bed. And I don't think these are just like activities, they're invitations to be more present. And she also mentioned like the goal isn't to eliminate every form of entertainment. Like I enjoy watching shows, YouTube, whatever, but the goal is to build a life that we're more engaged with so that we don't feel the need to constantly escape from the life that we're living. And she talked about how maybe the answer to mental exhaustion isn't doing less, it's consuming less. Because when we stop filling every empty moment with noise, we finally make room for reflecting, which is something I'm horrible at, gratitude and prayer and genuine rest, which makes our life one that we actually want to be present for. So it's just like a really insightful video. And I had not heard like anyone talk like that about this. So I'll link it down below. It was really good. But I came back to this in preparing for this episode because I just thought that was really countercultural, and like coming from someone who does social media, like she is a YouTuber, I thought it was really profound. So I don't know if you watched, I heard any thoughts about that, or if you have any ways that you...
Yeah, I've watched half of the video, but it's funny because not only you, but a few other people, both online and like in my real life, have referenced the video. So obviously like God is using it to like impact women, probably because the problem is so relatable and something that we all are experiencing and we know to be true. And I think next month, so in September, we're going to be talking about discipline, and this honestly ties into rest, which is kind of interesting. But I find that I lack discipline in the area of rest, and that's because I struggle saying no to the things that feel like an escape, because I think that there's a big difference between rest and escape, but we often like confuse the two, because there's a lot of things I can think of that I do that I I would claim to be rest, but are really just an escape. I mean, anything technology wise. Like, I don't know how we expect it to help us rest. Like, I'm just thinking about it. Like, why on earth would a show or reels or YouTube videos help us rest? Maybe that's just because we're physically resting our bodies.
Or we can like disassociate from reality a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's why I would call that escape when I'm being brutally honest with myself. The rest and escape can just be very easily confused because rest is intentionally restoring ourselves versus just like temporarily numbing or avoiding discomfort. When we turn everything off and are forced to have silence, then we kind of have to sift through thoughts, which sometimes can be something that we unintentionally, I feel like, push away. When that's how, in my opinion, the Holy Spirit has worked most in my life. So when I am doing something like cooking or doing something with my hands, like you were mentioning, like gardening or working out or any of those things, like when I work out with just music versus a podcast, or when I do the dishes without anything on, like that's when I finally start sifting through my thoughts for the day. And that's when I feel like I actually like sense God teaching me things. And when I'm not doing those things without something in my ears, then I couldn't tell you what the Lord's teaching me. Like I'm going so fast, I don't got time to learn, you know? And I think the physical rest thing, like where we put on a show or put on something for the sake of physical rest, like physical rest is only like one small part of rest. Like there's physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, relational rest, like creative rest. Like there's so many different types of rest. And I was really thinking about in preps for this episode, Matthew 11, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. And this is like so silly that this is so profound to me, but like it says, I will give you rest. Like God gives it to us. That means that it's not something that we do. Like I've always thought of rest as a verb. Like, okay, I need to rest. Rest is not something we do. Rest is something we receive. If God is saying that he gives us rest, then we have to receive it versus do it. Like I've always thought about it as something I do, but like that's not what the word says. And so then the question becomes, how do we receive rest? If it's not something that we do, how do we receive it? And I think those things that you already mentioned, like anything that will allow space and quiet for the Holy Spirit, that can be an example of how we receive. But then, like you're mentioning, getting back in the Word and reading a quantity of God's Word versus like sometimes I think I will only see my time with the Lord as like meaningful if I'm like doing like in-depth Bible study, but sometimes just like reading the word just to read the word, even if I'm not understanding every part, I'm giving the Lord space and I'm opening myself up to receive both rest and then his wisdom as well. So just viewing Matthew 11 in a totally new way, like it's a verse that I've had memorized for years and it's a song that we sing and I can't say the verse without thinking of the song, but that verse is like deeper every time I actually like think about it. So yeah, that's something I've been just trying to do better at, because now that Haven is sleeping better, I really have no excuse to like not have my time in the morning. But it is hard because I wake up and okay, like there's the dishwasher with clean dishes in it and I need to unload them before I go to work. Let me do it now. Like it's so easy to prioritize other things. And it could be as simple as, and I've been trying to challenge myself to do this, just like driving to work without a podcast. Like even worship music to me is better because sometimes I don't even do that because it doesn't feel productive. I want to maximize all my time. But then but in Beth's video, like what am I actually learning? I couldn't tell you at the end of the day what I'm actually learning and like deciphering in my mind because I'm just consuming so much of it.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said about as moms, it's like hard to do like an in-depth Bible study. Obviously that isn't really in the cards in this season of life, but I've heard it said, it's like, you don't remember what you had for dinner last night. Well, you do if you're me, because I eat the same thing. But I feel like normally you don't really remember exactly what you had for dinner last week. Last week you don't remember what you had for dinner. but it still nourished you. And it's the same thing like for the word. Like you're not always going to remember what you read, or it might not be like the most profound thing you ever read. You might be in the genealogies, but it's still spiritually nourishing you, even though it might not feel like you're doing a whole lot. So even like a little bit, you just do whatever you can in whatever season you're in. Like I don't have time to sit down for an hour and really study the word, but I know it's good for me. And if I don't do it first thing, as soon as I make the decision when I wake up in the morning to not do it and to do something else, then I'm not doing it. So I'm trying to get back into it, but it takes a little bit to build a habit. But also I like that you mentioned that verse in Matthew 11, because I really needed to hear it, because I've been feeling really overwhelmed at work lately. It's just been a lot. Like we're really short staffed. We have complete new command. I have a lot of like different projects going on, and also like managing people is just, there's always different fires to put out every day. And the to-do list is never ending. Like I could work all evening if I had the chance to, and there isn't enough hours in the day to get everything done. But I have a boundary that I'm like leaving when the work day's done, because I'm not missing out on any time with my son. That's just like, I'm just not staying late at work unless like it's an emergency or something like that, which can be stressful because I'm like, well, how am I going to get all this stuff done? Which I was really stressed this week. But then I was reminded of Israel in the wilderness. And during that, God provided manna for his people every day. But on the sixth day, he instructed them to gather enough for 2 days, because they were not supposed to gather on the Sabbath. And it talks about in Exodus 16:26, it says, 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none. And God wasn't necessarily doing this to give them a day off. He was teaching them to trust them. They had to believe that what he had already provided for them would be enough, and the rest required faith. And this is something that has like always stuck with me. And they couldn't keep striving, collecting the food to secure themselves. They had to stop and trust God that he would continue to provide, and that they weren't to gather on that day. And that was the lesson that I needed this week, because rest isn't just about taking a break. It's about trusting that God is still at work even when I stop working. So there will always be more emails to answer or more tasks that need to get done. But those things are never more valuable than the people that God has entrusted to me, like my family. So choosing to leave work and spend time with my son is an act of faith that God is able to provide even when I don't get everything crossed off my list. And I'm like, well, if I can't get it done during the workday, then you gave me too much. And I'm just going to have to be fine with that. Because old me, pre-baby, would like stay late, get the job done, and do the best job that I could. But now it's like I'm working with constrained hours, and I'm not willing to like sacrifice on that. So it was a good reminder to just like trust God with the time that I do have, because I was feeling very stressed this week. So preparing for this came at a good time.
Yeah. I have learned a lot from my husband in the area of leaving tasks unfinished, whether that's like work or dishes or laundry or whatever. Because like with your work, like there's always going to be things around the house as well. Like there's always going to be more, always going to be more. And Nolan's really good at like, he'll go and do a project that he's been looking forward to doing in the garage before he'll do the dishes, which drives me nuts, because then I see the dishes and I'm like, even though he said he was going to do them, he's not doing them yet. So I better do them. Like, but he will get true rest and fulfillment from doing some of the other things that he wants to do. Because some of the things that he's doing, he's working with his hands and allowing his brain that space that we're talking about. Like he wants to do that because he knows it's genuinely going to fill his cup. But I, on the other hand, will just work, and not feel like I can truly rest until everything's done. And the reason for that is because I see rest as something you earn, and that goes back to you earn rest, not receive rest. And if you don't do what you need to do, then you haven't earned it, then you don't get it. But clearly, even the Lord needed rest. And so that's false thinking on my part, but I think something that we all fall into. And I think it's also because the type of rest I'm doing is, and I can't think of a different word other than gluttonous, like the type of rest that I am looking forward to doing. The reason I feel like I have to earn it is because it's something that's not actually going to fill me up. It's something that is like watching TV or eating a treat or something like that. Like that's what I view as like, oh, I earned this, but that's not rest. So I have my thinking backwards when it comes to that. So I've been trying to get better at just putting the first things first. That's really all it is. And especially with my 2-year-old right now, like there's been a lot of moments recently where my first thought when I'm with him is like, wow, I really wish I had this moment on video because it's adorable and he's so sweet. And there's just things that he does where I'm just like, man, I just wish I had this on video. But then I stop and I'm just like, God is giving me this moment for right now. And I just need to embrace it. Like, even though the house is an absolute disaster and I could be doing all these things, like, I just need to watch him. And so I've had a few moments like that have really encouraged me because they've filled me up so much because God is using him and using that space. So yeah, all that to say, there are so many ways that we cannot achieve rest and so many ways we try aren't actually getting us what we need because the Sabbath was made for the man, not man for the Sabbath. So we just have to keep that in mind and humble ourselves to know that even the Lord needed rest. And so why would we think that we can do without it when he literally commands us in the commandments to like take the Sabbath seriously? Do you have any thoughts on that? This is very spontaneous. I didn't really plan to talk about like Sabbath in general, but do you have a Sabbath and how would you ideally implement a Sabbath?
I think we loosely do a Sabbath. I feel like on Sundays, we usually don't make plans with anybody. Like it's usually like a family day. And I try to do a lot of my prep on Saturday, but that isn't always the case. Like meal prepping and stuff, I guess I'll do on Sunday too. But I feel like we go to church and Matt volunteers in the evening at church. But other than that, we usually just try to spend time together, which is restful for me. And we try not to be like on our phones and watching like screens and all that. So we just kind of make it kind of a family day, which I guess is how we implement the Sabbath. But it's like impossible really to not do any like chores on the Sabbath. But we do try not to go out to eat because we usually don't go out to eat on Sundays because then you're kind of, the way we see it is like someone else is like working on the Sabbath to like serve you. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we usually, I mean, there are exceptions where we definitely go to Kava or something, but I feel like we usually try to have leftovers or something like that. But we definitely do like meal prep and like clean. We try to do it on Saturday, but it doesn't always happen because usually we're hanging out with people on Saturday.
Right.
So it's like impossible to not do that, but we just try to do our best.
Yeah, that's what I'm wrestling with right now because Saturdays always end up being like the activity or friend day. And then Sunday's like the default house reset and prep for the weekday. And so
I try to reset on Friday. I feel like Friday night resets are good. I don't know. We do that. And then it's like a light clean on Sunday. But I don't know. It's hard because sometimes we have plans on Friday.
Yeah. More and more recently, I'm like, I'm really wanting to get my house cleaner back because all these tasks, they're just never ending. And I don't want to use my time like that. But I know too, and I keep going back to like the receive, because the temptation for me is just to be like, oh, well, when we can get everything done during the week and then on the weekend we'll be home and we can create this nice, beautiful Sabbath and Shabbat dinner and all these things run through my mind. But again, it's not something you do, it's something you receive. So I need to kind of reshift that thinking and implement it now because it's not like it's going to get easier, even though logistics might get easier. It's not about logistics. It's about a heart posture of receiving. So I want to check myself on that.
Yeah, I don't want to make it like too legalistic, like you can't do. I think it looks different for families and like what their Sabbath looks like and how they find rest. Because we always go for a walk in the morning on Sunday, which is a way I have rest and like have a good conversation. So I don't know.
Yeah. And we'll get more into how to practically rest during busy seasons next week. But one rotating segment we wanted to implement starting with this episode is a segment called Mission Myth. So we're just going to say a phrase and then Liz and I are going to answer whether we think it's myth, true, or if it depends and if we have thoughts. So the first one for this episode is you cannot truly rest with young children. 1, 2, 3.
Myth.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think I do restful things with my son, like going for a walk with him is restful. I mean, he's younger, so it doesn't require as much, I feel like, but also the hours between 7 and 9 are like golden hours those are the 2 hours that I get to myself and to spend time with my husband to rest. So in the newborn days, I feel like it is restful because you just lay around with them, actually. But
I was going to say the newborn days are easy.
Yeah, like you're just like, I think we watched a lot of TV, which we're talking about not doing, but it was a fun season because we don't normally do that. But yeah, I still feel like I get a decent amount of rest No, especially now that my son's older, I have my hours between 7 and 9. And,
Well,
you know?
and I want to challenge that a little bit because I feel like the question is almost more so saying like during their waking hours, can you rest? Because that was what I thought originally was like, well, yeah, I mean, I have after bedtime and during nap time, but like, can you rest when they're awake?
Yeah, I do things like I do a lot of activities with James that are pretty restful. Like even just he's playing around and I'm watching him, like that is rest. Like playing with James is like rest for me. I feel like that really resets my mind, and going on walks with him and everything.
Yeah. Well, and even going back to our crazy night last night, even in a moment like that, like where you're worried about a lot of things are going on, logistically, you got to be on top of things. But you can still receive. If it's really something you receive, you can receive it in that moment. So I want to get better at when my children are awake specifically, being a good model of receiving it and intentionally like when moments are stressful, out loud, randomly being like, okay, Lord, we need your peace. I want to get better at doing that in the midst of the chaos versus just like after they go to bed, I'll sit down and I'll decompress. Like I want to model that for them because if I'm not doing it when they're awake, then when are they going to learn it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that first one was good for me to think through. Okay, the second one is sometimes the most stressful thing you can do is finish the task. 3, 2, 1.
Meh.
It depends.
I thought
No,
say meh
the,
after.
the correct answer is a myth because of what I just said above. The only reason I say it depends is because I think there are other times where it's like I am dragging my feet to get things done that I know the Lord is calling me to, where I'm like, this is my job. Stop, like, what's the word? Being idle, just like get it done. Like, so there are some times where it's like I put off things that I know the Lord has called me to do that I would feel more peaceful if I just did them because he's asked me to do them. Like it's kind of the obedience thing, and that's like the angle I guess I was taking this one. Like with our son right now, we're really harping on how delayed obedience is still disobedience. And I guess it's the same vein for me. Like God wants me to just obey him right away and then experience his peace and his rest versus when I just like, lollygag and put off the things he's called me to do. Then like sometimes I'm not going to experience rest as quickly because I'm living in sin and being disobedient. So that's my only thought on that one. And then the last one, your phone is probably ruining your rest. True.
Yeah, true.
I thought you were going to count down. I'm just definitive on that one.
We all know it's true.
Yeah, we all know that's true. And so once you're done listening to this podcast and subscribing and liking and leaving a review, then get off your phone.
I want to have somewhere like I saw someone like put something up where they like put their phone like when they came in the house, and I feel like that.
Yeah, hang your phone up.
Yeah, or just have somewhere you can put it away.
A really good system that I have in our entryway. We have a little entryway table, but it has a drawer, and my husband drilled a hole in the back, so all of our chargers like go up through the drawer, and so we put all of our phones in the drawer.
Nice.
So it has a place it lives, which is really great. Well, that's all for this episode. We hope that you guys can go and receive some more rest based on the things that we talked about. And again, we'll be back next week talking about some more practical ways that we can rest within busy seasons, because most everybody on this earth, especially in this country, are busy. But that does not mean, spoiler alert, that does not mean that we can't experience God's rest. So come back next week for that episode. And with that, this has been Erin and Liz helping you mind your mission.